Welcome back to the Make Account Podcast.
I'm Marcus Mire, founder of Mire Group CPAs and the Total Control Accounting System.
I'm Tyler Warner, a small business owner with a lot of accounting questions.
All right, Tyler. So we had a little break for vacation. So we're gonna give we're gonna give our one listener what he wants, and it's an expanded episode.
That's right. We
heard loud and clear from our audience, and so we're gonna try to go 40 minutes today. We normally keep it around 20.
Yeah.
And today we're talking.
Buckle in, folks.
That's right. That's right. So if you're on your way from Lafayette to Baton Rouge, this is perfect. Get you across the Basin Bridge.
There you go. We hope in 40 minutes.
Right. If not, get in the left lane.
Right.
All right. So today we're going to talk about something that's really I'm passionate about. And I think it's kind of misunderstood about what accountants do. And I know our firm's a little different. And so it's talking this concept of we want to help you as a firm do better business. And that means from the start. And so today I'm going to give you a few examples of times where these are client examples of, and not trying to beat up on these clients, they know it, where they got off like most people do. Most people are not intentional in business. They, in some ways.
Or about every aspect.
Let's back up. About every aspect. They know they want to be in business. But this, and rightfully so, I mean, they're thinking accounting, finance, is that an essential part of my business that I really need to spend on? And what happens every time, we'll get into the examples, is...
Well, people generally don't create a product or a service for the love of accounting.
Right. Or that's right. They go into business.
Right.
But what happens is this always ends up derailing them or costing them more than it could from the beginning, or they miss out on opportunities.
Right.
So couple case studies. So one I want to talk about is a client of mine has a school. And so from the beginning, obviously they charge a flat tuition fee.
Okay, so it's a private school.
Private school, yeah. And one of the things we've mentioned, or and this is one we're working with, this is a problem we want to fix, is that the collections from that look somewhat haphazard. You know, you're emailing somebody an invoice to pay by credit card. So right there, you're putting the client in the driver's seat about when you get paid, especially with something that's agreed upon and recurring. I think when you sign up for a school that there's going to be 9 months of tuition, and that's just that. I mean, there's caveats. There might be a clause where you can get out, but most people, you get into tuition, it's for the school year. It's August to May. You're going to get paid 9 months. So from that point of view, you want to move away from allowing the client to dictate when they pay you, and move to a situation where you draft the money from them. So for two reasons. One, the system they have right now is driven by credit card payments, which is a way more expensive way to collect money than what I'm going to propose, which is an ACH. So I'm literally going to propose to this client to use the software that we use, which is Practice Ignition, which is built for accountants, but it could work for this perfectly, where the client gets a proposal. And in this example, their proposal is the yearly tuition. Hey, Johnny wants to come to school here. Sure. Here's our contract. So for us, it's an engagement letter. For them, it could be a contract. Here's what happens when you come to school here. And before you sign this, you have to put your banking information in. You can't sign the proposal until you put your banking information in.
Right.
That ACH, at most, I looked up, Practice Ignition cost is $1, whereas credit cards generally are around 3%. So you can do the math on that. If you had a $500 per month, that's $15 versus ACH of $1. Multiply that $14 difference by all your clients times the number of months. I mean, it's wildly cheaper.
Sure.
So we want to move them to that. But the point in this episode is that could have been done years ago.
Right.
It could have been like, hey, we're starting this deal. What do you think? And I think the reason, and this client, they're awesome people, smart. I could never run a school, so let's put that out there.
Sure.
But they, right?
I could.
Yeah, but you could. Right. But my point is, I don't think that people think my accountant should be involved in that discussion.
Right.
And I could bring in Quentin here, who's in the office next door, he's working, I think, at least 3 conversions right now with clients who are doing things so manually that it's affecting their work-life balance. It's affecting their how productive their business is, but it's because they all got off doing things the way they thought they should, kind of haphazardly and unintentionally.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, we do accounting. Well, that must be QuickBooks. Or, hey, we do quoting. Well, that must be on a Word document.
Yeah.
Like, not thought out. And they're all now having to pay us to fix it And look, we think the fee's worth it because we're going to give them hopefully a better business and lifestyle.
Right.
But it could have been done from the beginning.
Right. I want to say this, maybe there's a few things, right? So people generally make decisions based on their own experiences.
Right.
So let's just say I don't know this client at all. I don't even know who you're referencing, but let's just say whoever started that school probably worked at a school before, I would imagine. And they just maybe thought, oh, well, we've got to do what our school did. Or maybe even they said, when I start my school, I'm going to use this other software that this, But the thing is, now in 2021, there's almost always a better solution from anything you decided 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's sort of a unique time period in that in the 90s or maybe even the early 2000s, you might have been able to go like 5-10 years without, needing to change software.
Or even considering it.
You know what I mean? But especially in the payment side and the accounting, it's been exploding how many options there are and how much consumer behavior has changed. We were just talking a little bit about Cash App and Venmo and how people are swapping money no problem. And so, things like schools and all the, church, all these other sort of institutions that, maybe just don't have the accounting or banking savvy.
Right.
Or just kind of left behind. So I would just say, if you haven't looked at that process in 2 years, or 6 months even maybe, look at it again. Chances are there's going to be something that makes it way easier for your staff and your customers.
Well, I got 2 things on that. So the first thing is accountants have not branded. I don't blame the clients. Accountants have not branded themselves in such a way that because all we're talking about with that is decision-making awareness. Oh, wait, I know my accountant helps with that, but they don't.
Right.
So if I'm being fair in that discussion, it's because accountants for years, which is what I fight against daily, people think, well, you're just the guy I get at the end of the year to do my tax return.
Yeah.
Like really to recap what's already been done, tell me if I made money or lost money, and fill out this tax form properly.
Right.
But man, we're doing. I know you got a point on that. We're doing so much more than that.
Yeah, no, it is funny. Like it kind of falls in this crack of like, is it the IT guy? Is it the web guy? Because is it the accountant? Is it Certainly, it's not the credit card company that's going to come around and say, "Oh, you should try ACH." You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I will tell you because of technology and better yet, cloud technology, which has really made it where you don't need to be an IT guy.
Right.
Like for us, we sit around. I mean, before you came in, Quentin and I were sitting there just kind of talking about tech stacks. We're starting to refine for certain clients in certain industries. What should your tech stack be? Okay, Xero for accounting, Gusto for payroll. Like, excuse me. He's got a catering client. He's doing a demo with a software called IV. So we hope that IV is the one. That's more of like a client-facing messaging portal kind of deal for where you work. So they're working with brides and people putting on parties. Right. But we're hopeful because we have another catering client that becomes our catering client tech stack.
Sure.
So we're not IT people, but we understand how all these parts work together.
Right.
And
the
so
same thing could be said for schools. I'm sure there's
absolutely.
a school and for school payment software, and
no doubt.
I mean, all
and
that
that's
stuff.
my job now. And again, I get back to my point about the branding. I don't think people think that I'm out there looking for those things. But what we're doing, because we have said as a firm, our mission is to help small businesses do better business. That does not mean your tax return. It means the tax return is a component of it.
Sure.
And so I was in, again, I keep bringing up Quentin because we were talking this morning. I literally drew on his whiteboard a wheel. And I said, tax is just a spoke in this wheel. But other things are payroll, advisory, tech stack.
Collections is what we're talking
the
about.
The whole thing. Like, if my mission is to help you do better business, why the heck am I just filling out the forms at the end of the year?
Right.
We want to help you. And I'm telling you, we're researching this stuff, learning it because we like it. I mean, we're running our whole business off this technology. So again, I don't think accountants have branded themselves well enough in this area, nor do they want to do it. We do, and we're trying to brand ourselves, hence this podcast and all the other stuff we're doing.
Right.
So one example, the school. Second example, and this is one I think a lot of people can relate to. Oil and gas company where the CPA has a set of books and the client has a set of books, and neither agree. Basically, the accountants, you as the client have told them, hey, do my accounting. I'm not sure really what that means, but produce a financial statement, and I'll be over here invoicing and collecting.
So that's what that means by a set of books, because it almost sounds like it's shady, but you're
Yep.
saying like it's really just the CPA has to have a set of books to be able to file a tax return
That's right.
and stay compliant. And this other guy's just his set of books, I did air quotes there,
Right.
is just meaning like he's got a spreadsheet of just keeping
Correct.
track of his bank statement and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
his set of
Okay.
books were using QuickBooks as an invoicing tool.
Okay.
So not reconciling the bank account.
Gotcha. So they're not intentionally different or
No.
anything like that.
But again, no communication, nothing on the front end. It was just like, I know we need a CPA. Like I've got a lot of people that come to me and
Right.
say that. They'll say things like, I'm starting a business. I know I need a CPA.
Yeah.
So again, back to that conversation.
Yeah, I mean
of-
that's how I was.
Of course.
I started, and it was like April 14th. I was like, oh yeah, I should probably you hire a CPA. Okay, yeah,
Right.
Let's see.
You heard that at a cocktail party, right?
Yeah,
or at the
yeah.
beach.
Yeah,
The
both.
places where
it
you
was a
talk
cocktail party
all-
on the beach.
All the places where you talk accounting.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's and again, it just goes back to that. What we're trying to do is to break those thought patterns of no, these things ought to be on the front end, not on the back end. And so this client literally doesn't even know what they make until they get the tax return, and it's somewhat surprising. They have lots of questions, and the other guys are going, "Well, you didn't." It's just a lack of communication. So the solution for these guys is pretty simple. We took their data, we converted it and put it in a zero, cleaned it up. So that's part of the total control accounting system.
Right.
The
Step
first
one,
the
clean up.
first step is cleanup. So we basically followed our total control accounting system with them. We wanted to leave them going into the second phase, which was the read phase, but they didn't have the record phase down. So we had to clean them up. We had to get them consistent. So I looked yesterday; they're in zero. They're coding the
Yeah.
transactions. They're invoicing, and then the third step is collaboration. So the consistency and collaboration almost are 2 and 3 go together.
Yeah.
And I'm checking in, so I'm collaborating. I'm looking. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, and I want to make this comment too. I think the consistency part is it's not so much that like you instilled this new discipline in them, although you could say that.
Right.
It's just that you also helped lower the bar.
Yeah.
To make it easier to be consistent. I
That's a
know
good point.
that's how it went for me. Is like I used to never be, I never felt the urgency because it was like, I mean, my bank statement's there and all my expenses are accounted for. So reconciling, these minor little things never felt like things were out of control if that wasn't done. But Zero's made it so easy to do that it's like, okay, the benefits, there to just do it. And
Yeah, there's a hurdle in terms of like me selling you to a certain extent on the importance. But yeah, it's always more helpful if what I'm selling you, I can also say, and look, I'm telling you this tool I'm about to give you is going to make it way easier.
Right.
So that hurdle becomes less of a hurdle. It's a
Sure.
good point. And so they're consistent. And let me back up. This client wanted to do it better.
Yeah.
They just never knew where to go.
Yeah. You're not like the dentist.
No.
Like,
Excuse me, this cough. This client wanted to do better business. Like they wanted to have their books, just didn't know where to go. So now they got a plan. They're consistent. We're collaborating. We're now moving to the read stage where, man, I'm just coughing.
yeah, take a sip or whatever you need.
They're moving to the read stage, which is in their proposal I built for them. They're 2 meetings a year. So now we're going to take their data and we're going to read it together and start to point out things that they need to look out for, so they can then understand and tell their team. Like we're moving them along in the total control accounting system with the goal of, man, you guys are running a really good business. You got your data. Like, let me just help you fine tune and be an advisor.
Right.
But so it took some steps. So that's our second case study. All right, third. This one is really like near and dear to me. He's a really good friend who is like just kind of a serial entrepreneur, really smart, really savvy, owned a construction company. Where he went big. He had a team of 10 people, a foreman. He had, I think, 2 accounting people and an admin, a draftsman. Like he was doing it, but it was very manual. It was in QuickBooks Desktop. And this is probably about 5 years ago. He sold it. And so he got out of that business, went to, he's an entrepreneur, went and did other things, but the building kind of kept pulling at him. So he's back doing building, but he's doing it better this time. I introduced him to Zero. He's running now a construction company, not as big, but close, by himself with Zero and Google Sheets, because he does his budgeting in Google Sheets. So that's fine. And he's doing all this, paying nearly the same amount of vendors, the same, sums of money, running the same sums of deposits on draws from construction loans and that sort of thing, all with Zero.
Right.
So let's kind of talk about how he's doing that. First is the bill payment function. So in the construction industry, I don't know a lot of people know this, like in construction, people want their checks on Friday. Like your subs generally, that's kind of the thought, you meet at the job site or at your office, whatever. Well, that was becoming a problem for him. Like we were doing it in Zero, which is fine, but he was still cutting checks. And I said, look, man, because he recently bought a place down at the beach. He's like, I want to spend more time on the beach, but one of the things that's holding me back, because I got a pretty virtual system, but is this check. Well, now we moved him to Zero with Relay. So Relay's an online bank. And basically what happens is this. Here's the workflow. The vendor, we tell them, look, Wednesday night, you got to have your invoice to us, which is just a PDF. Send us that PDF goes to him, and then he could give them this email address I'm about to mention, but Zero gives you an email address for your accounts payable. Right? So they email it to him. He forwards it to that Zero.
Meaning, explain that a little bit better, because I'm familiar with that process.
Yep.
But explain that to people who don't.
Okay,
don't
so
understand how that
Zero,
works.
when you get a Zero account, so Zero offers accounts payable, so meaning your bills that you owe your vendors. But when they do that, they give you a dedicated email address. It's an arcane string of characters at Zero.com.
But something you can bookmark in your contacts or whatever.
You could just create a contact called Zero Bills.
Right.
So what happens is somebody sends you a bill, you just forward it to that email address, and then Zero pulls it into your file as an accounts payable bill. And if it's a PDF that's pretty standard, it will read it using OCR, optical character recognition, and start to fill out the bill for you in Zero. So it won't do it all right. The technology is not 100% perfect, but it'll do a lot of it. It'll read the vendor name. It'll read the amount. You might have to go in and say it's this expense account or that expense account. But once you do that, done.
Right.
Then the next step is, because you've got Relay Bank, which is an online bank that has a direct connection to Zero, it has an accounts payable function. In Relay, it syncs with Zero and pulls that bill in, including the PDF, and says, hey, you want to pay these guys? Then you just click pay. And if you might have to set them up in Relay, which is easy.
Right.
Like where you just send an email, you literally click, I forget the terminology, but it's, you click it, you click a button and it sends that vendor an email and says, hey, so-and-so wants to pay you, enter your payment information and fill out your W-9, which is another key thing.
Yeah.
And then now they're set up to be paid by ACH, and it's one-day ACH. So long story short, we've solved the check problem with technology, where on Thursdays, if he's at the beach, he's literally just going through his Relay account, checking everybody, making sure their bills are in, because they're in Zero, they funneled into, and just click and pay.
Yeah.
Click and pay. Done.
Yeah. And somehow we've ended up doing accounting on the beach again. Was that all this story was for?
I thought all roads led to that.
I feel like I've been hoodwinked. Oh, man. Catch your breath there, man.
I wasn't expecting that. That
No,
was a curveball.
Look, that sounds awesome. And it reminds me of the conversation we had where it was like, I mean, this guy started a construction business, and then 5 years later, he's doing it differently. We kind of had that whole conversation of like, if you could start a virtual business.
Yeah.
It was like, man, I mean, we just listed all the same tools. I mean, literally the guy, it's all virtual.
All virtual.
And, I guess it's just kind of back to the same point I made earlier. Like, it's worth just taking inventory of like, okay, even just as an exercise, like if I was going to start my business again today and wipe out all the tools I'm currently using and reevaluate them,
Yep.
it's worth doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
At least a place to start and just realize, whoa, we could be making our life a whole lot easier.
Well, think about this. This guy's such an advocate of this whole cloud accounting system. He and I are talking, and we're trying to figure out starting a consulting firm, because he wants to go pitch this to other people in the construction, and he's got some clients, not clients, a lot of good friends in the restaurant business. And he's looking at them going, man, they could really benefit from this. Yeah, so he believes in this system so much, he's going into businesses and thinking about how he knows his other buddies in the construction industry do things. Well, he's talking about the guy he actually sold his old construction company to. He's like, I know he still has the 2 people I had on staff. He's like, I could go into him and be like, look, man, this is the system I use. Like, let's adopt this. And then we're talking about he has some restaurant buddies. He's like, Marcus, you would not believe how manual they are. He's literally talking about the things we talk about here at the office. He's like, yeah, they get an invoice for their food cost, and at one location they mail it to another location for a guy to check it off. He's like, he's like, payroll. Everybody's got to come to the restaurant at Wednesday at 2:00. He's like, dude, we have got to get in there and implement these systems. So it's like, I also want to make this point. These systems are not just like accountants getting off going, oh, this is really cool, techie, and nobody cares. Like,
Right.
these are solutions that if you want to be efficient in your business, they'll get you excited.
Right.
Because they, like this guy, they mean he can go to the beach now.
Right.
He's not chained to his office because he's got to cut checks on Friday.
Right.
So, like, I want to make
Yeah.
that point. Like, we're excited about it, but we're only excited about it because it's efficient and helps you run your business.
Sure. And too, I mean, just to think of like from his perspective, his vendors now don't have to go to an office,
Right.
then go to the bank.
Right.
It's just it's done.
Oh, no,
I mean, that's a way better experience for them too.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
imagine if you're a vendor, that's so ingrained in your routine is like, well, let me go to everybody's construction office.
Right. That's true because you're working for multiple.
Yeah, imagine if you were you're the painter or the cabinet guy, and you're like, no, I can Friday afternoon, I can go to the beach.
Ooh. Would you
Let's
do your?
flip the script
Would he be
here.
doing his accounting?
Absolutely not.
That's where all
yeah,
roads lead.
this guy's done. He's just hanging out on the
Man.
beach because he doesn't have to go pick up the check and then go deposit it and
So,
all that other stuff.
You bringing up something, and I didn't even think we are going to go there, but in that example, if you run your business better, and we've been talking about this so much here at our firm, if we run our business better, people are going to notice and want to do business with you. If you're the construction guy who on every Friday morning, your subs have a deposit in their bank account, I think you're a little more like people want to work with you a little more,
Sure.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
because it makes a lot of sense, right? Like you just said, I don't have to go chase you around, get a check, hope the money's good. Like I wake up Friday morning, I've got an ACH deposit that's pending.
Right.
So I think that's just one of the kind of unintended consequences of it. But I think if we were to kind of bring the conversation forward is when you start a business and you're being intentional. Everybody starts with an idea generally, a product or service they want to sell or render. When you do that, just think about how you're play it out. Think about all the steps of receiving money, paying people, accounting for it. I know none of that sounds like what you got into business to do, but I'm telling you, and Tyler I think can attest in his businesses he's been involved in, it ultimately comes back to roost. And I don't think anybody starts a business thinking I want it to be mom and pop or I want it to be unsuccessful. Talk to anybody that has a really successful business. Generally, not always, but generally, they have their accounting and finance somewhat in order. So, why not start with the end in mind, thinking I want to have a good business. That may not mean 100 employees, but you can have a great business with 6 employees. Where everybody, you use great technology, you do good work, it's efficient, people have work-life balance, all these things. So start with the end in mind about what you want, and then talk to somebody like me to help you achieve those goals. Because I guarantee you, I'm going to have, and our firm's going to have some ideas on this because that's what we do every day. I mean, we sit around weekly in meetings and talk about, hey, did you see this new thing that Zero came out with? Or did you see this new function that Gusto came out with? Or what about this new app? Like I mentioned, Ivy for catering companies. I didn't know anything about Ivy, but now I do.
Yeah.
So we got another catering client. We're bringing them in Monday to pitch these ideas to them.
Yeah. And two, I mean, I think I've experienced some benefit of having an advisor like you because, the tech savvy part was never really the issue. I mean, we were always Googling and kind of doing our own research of okay, what kind of software pieces can fit in this puzzle. But I remember at one point in our in one of my businesses, we're using an invoicing and billing software, um, but it wasn't a full accounting suite. And
Right.
I didn't necessarily notice that because it was like, well, it keeps track of our expenses, it keeps track of our revenue.
Right.
We can bill through it and we have a record of all of our invoices and everything like that. But it didn't produce a balance sheet,
Yeah.
it didn't produce a few other things. And I wasn't really worried about that too much, but you were able to say, "Hey, look, this software is good, but it's not giving you this full picture.
Right.
You may want to consider this other software or whatever." And so I think that's helpful too, because you're
Yeah.
going to have a more holistic view of everything, considering everything from like, why you would need to produce a balance sheet
Right.
to, okay, hey, you're gonna need this information when you file a tax return, blah, blah, blah. This you need for payroll, et cetera. You have a more holistic view of the
Right.
whole, you know, chain, if you will.
Well, I'm also a small business owner, and so I get it. Like, to your point, we have clients, we're talking about in the restaurant business. I understand if you have a POS, a point of sale system that you've trained everybody, you don't want to scrap that.
Right.
Okay. So you know what I know? I call a friend of mine who lives in barrier island off of Florida near Jacksonville, who's a food and beverage kind of specialist. And I called her. I said, Stephanie, got some restaurant clients who work with this point of sale, but we want to work with Zero and they don't integrate. Well, she goes, no problem. Use this software called Shogo. Shogo is the go-between of those two software. It allows, so you can go to Shogo's website. Sure enough, they integrate with the point of sale system that this client used, but it also integrates with our preferred accounting system, which is Zero. So the point is, I can go to a small business owner and go, I'm not going to try to dictate. Although on some clients we do, if they want to work with
Yeah.
us, we say this is the tech stack.
There's always that flex point, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But to your point, I've got the little 30,000 foot view to say, well, I get that you're using a Toast and it doesn't integrate with Zero, but I have enough contacts and wherewithal and foresight to call this other colleague
to
of
find
mine
a solution.
and say, and she goes, no, you can have both. So now we just go, hey, let's implement Shogo. It goes between Toast and Zero. You get to live in Toast, which you love. You've trained everybody on. You don't want to move, which I
Yeah.
totally get. We get to put you in Zero, which we think is the best solution for you. Everybody wins.
Yeah.
But it's a little foresight and a little conversation that if you're just over there in your own world and you never ask or you don't ever talk with your
Yeah.
accountant or advisor, that solution doesn't happen.
Sure.
And you're sitting there with a POS that you're trying to manually input data into a desktop software when we could have said, look, let's time out. Let's keep you in Toast, but
Yeah.
we think the output should be in Zero, and here's the solution to do that.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before, how like with technology, there's such an advantage to just have this like glass half full mentality.
Yeah, that's a good
where
point.
like you just kind of you can find a way.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think your mindset. I mean, we're in such an information tech driven world. Your mindset has to shift to when you have a problem. Not always, but a lot of times. Okay, there's a piece of software that can solve this. Generally,
Yeah.
and that's what you said. Well, I forget what episode it was. You always just default to that immediately.
Right.
I come to a problem that seems pretty manual. Okay, let me do a little Google searching. Surely, and chances are there is
Yeah.
a solution that'll fix that.
Yeah, because as there's more technology, and that's made software is way easier to create now.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? So that's innovated as well. So the manpower and resources it takes to create these solutions, there's a lot of variables. And if you happen to be a software developer listening, you're probably just like, oh
Your
my
your
God,
mind's exploding.
Yeah,
This web guy thinks
But
he knows
like, I
software.
think everybody could agree, like what it took, to make something like this 10 years ago is not nearly what it takes now. And as a result of that, the barrier of entry to even create these solutions is a lot lower.
Absolutely.
So it's why you can find software specifically if you're a dog walker, like there's probably a complete business suite you could subscribe
absolutely.
to.
Because if there's enough of people in your industry, chances are somebody has seen a business opportunity. I mean, we're
Right.
capitalists, and said, "I want to solve that problem." I mean, back to the catering company. There's software in catering, kind of food and beverage industry. There's software where your employees, if you allow it, I mean, again, full control on a lot of these stuff, but you can allow your employees to, in an app, change and swap shifts. I mean, I know that's a pain for a
Yeah.
lot of businesses.
That was probably a big part of a manager's job.
Absolutely, like having to run it by so and so. But how about you just set approval levels and say this kind of shift, whatever it is. I'm not gonna if it's a bar back, let's just say that we can reasonably expect one guy to do the same job as the other. Just give them full autonomy to switch shifts, and I'm out of the equation. And they've done it in an app which they're used to using anyway, by the way. So yeah, man, it's just a piece of software, generally speaking, that can solve your problem and kind of help you.
Yeah. All right, yeah. So those are 3 really strong examples of just the whole, where we are with cloud accounting and all the new benefits of technology and
Starting
Yeah.
with the end in mind. I
Right.
think that's where I would say is you've kind of made the point, which I love, which is glass half full mentality when it comes to software. You get to a problem that's very manual, your antenna should go off and go, wait a minute. I'm over here working in a spreadsheet and a Word document and they don't talk. Okay, the chances are, if nothing else, hopefully this podcast has brought awareness
Right.
where you at least go to look. That's the first thing. And the second thing would be just start with somebody from the beginning, whiteboard the processes, let them in. That's generally going to be an accountant that knows cloud accounting. It's the
Right.
best of both worlds because then we can also tell you, hey, let's build your software in such a way, or let's build your system in such a way that produces this output to then do financial reporting, which is your financial statements, and do your tax return, which is what you probably thought we were going to do at the beginning.
Right.
So start with the end in mind, glass half full mentality on software.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're looking for a place to get started, I would just say, just know that there's solutions out there.
Right.
And then, go to Mire.group and reach out. And,
Absolutely.
you don't have to be left on your own with this stuff. The Mire Group will just pull you out of the muck and the mire.
We want to bring you from
And they'll plop you right on the beach with all the tools you need.
right. I don't think when we set out to start the total control accounting system that we said that freedom was accounting at the beach, but
Yeah.
maybe we need to rethink that.
It certainly is going to appeal to a lot of people, I think. All right. Well, that's it for today. On a real note, though, check out the resources at Mire.group and certainly reach out to them if you need help with any of this stuff. Be on next week.
Yep. See you next time.